Chapter 1. The life I thought was everything. If I told you that divorce saved my life, would you believe me? Most people think divorce is only pain, but for me, it was the start of my freedom. Let me tell you how it began. My story may sound different, but it is all true. This is the life I had, the life I thought was perfect, and the life that almost broke me. My name is Clara. I am 69 years old. I live in the United States. People see me now and say I am strong, but I want to tell you the truth. I want to tell you about my past life. I was married for many years. I mean, most of my life. I went to that house as a young wife with dreams, but those dreams slowly became jobs. From the first day of my marriage to the last day with my husband, I lived for him. I cooked 3 meals a day, I ironed his shirts, I cleaned the floors, I kept everything clean so he never had to do any work. People said I was a good wife. I thought that was who I was. I thought my value was in serving him. I never asked for anything from myself. I did not buy clothes for me without his yes. I did not see friends without telling him. My days began with his needs and ended with his mood. Sometimes I was tired, sometimes I was sick, but I told myself this was love. I told myself a wife must give up everything. I thought if he was happy, then I was happy. That idea was so deep in me, I never thought about a life without him. You may ask me, did you not feel stuck? The truth is, I did not know I was stuck. I thought that life was normal. I thought love meant giving everything and getting nothing. I thought quiet was peace. Now I see how wrong I was, but at that time I believed it was the only way to live. There were times I wanted to say, I am tired, but I did not speak. There were nights I wanted to talk about my feelings, but he was always busy with his own things. I waited for him to see me. I waited for him to ask how I felt, but that never happened. Still, I never said anything. I thought, maybe all marriages are like this. Maybe I am not strong enough to ask for more. I remember one day I had a fever. My body was hot. My head hurt a lot. But he asked me to iron his clothes. I stood there with water in my eyes. I ironed his white shirt while my hands shook. I wanted him to say, "Stop, you need to rest." But instead he said, "Do not make any wrinkles." That day I felt something break inside me, but still I did not say no. I told myself, this is my job. My life became the same thing every day. Wake up, cook, clean, serve, sleep. Again and again, every day. I lost myself. I forgot what I liked. I forgot what I wanted. I forgot what made me smile. People outside thought we had a perfect marriage. They said, "Look at her. She takes such good care of him. She is so lucky." Lucky. That word hurt me because inside I felt empty. I was not lucky. I was lost. But I held on to hope. I kept telling myself, one day he will see how much I love him. One day he will thank me. I waited for years, but that day never came. Instead, something else came, something that changed my life completely. One night, he sat at the table. His face was serious, his eyes were cold. I thought maybe he had a bad day at work. I asked him softly if he wanted tea. He moved his head no and said words I never thought I would hear. I want a divorce. First, I gave a nervous laugh. I thought he was joking. How could he say that after so many years? But his face did not change. My hands shook. My voice broke. I begged him. I said, "We can fix this. I will change. I will do more." I was ready to try even harder. I was already bent so low. But he was not listening. His mind was made. He said he wanted his freedom. He said he was tired. Tired of what? I gave him everything. What more did he want? That night, I cried like a baby. I held his hand. I begged him not to go, but he pulled his hand away. The man I lived for every second was walking away. I could do nothing to stop him. I felt my whole world fall down. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I wanted to run, but my legs felt weak. I put my face in the pillow, and it got wet from my tears. I felt like a child who lost everything at once. The next few days, I tried to stop him. I cooked his favorite food. I smiled when he came in. I spoke softly, hoping he would be kind. But he ate without talking. He looked at me like I wasn't even there. My heart broke again. For days, I kept trying. I prayed at night. I begged in the morning. I told him I couldn't live without him. But his eyes told me the truth. He had already left me in his heart. His body was there, but his love was gone. One evening, he put papers on the table. They were divorce papers. My hands shook when I touched them. I asked him not to do it. I said we could fix things. He said it was too late. He said nothing could change his mind. My chest felt hot. I thought I could not breathe. I tried to make it later. I told him I needed more time. He said I could have a few days, but it wouldn't change anything. He was sure. His voice was strong. Mine was broken. I felt like I was in a fight I could not win. When I finally signed the papers, it felt like I died. I saw my name next to his, now apart forever. The pen was hard to hold, but I signed it. My tears fell on the paper. I wanted to rip it, but it was done. Many years of marriage ended with a few pen marks. After that, I watched him pack. He took his clothes, his books, his things. I stood in the corner, not able to move. Everything he put in the bag felt like a piece of me. I wanted to scream, "Stop! This is my life too!" But I said nothing. My mouth would not open. When he walked out the door, I watched him with my eyes. He did not look back. He did not stop. He left like I was nothing. The door closed, and with that sound, my world fell apart. I fell to the floor and cried until I could not breathe. I felt like my soul was torn out. The days after were worse. I walked in the house like I was not really there. I touched his shirts still in the closet. I smelled them and cried. I sat at the table and looked at his empty chair. I made tea and by mistake poured 2 cups. Then I remembered he was gone. The pain was very sharp. People called me. Some gave advice. Some told me to move on. Some said I was free now. Their words hurt me more. They did not know my heart. They did not know I gave my whole life to him. Without him, I felt I had no value. Nights were the hardest. I lay in bed looking at the empty space next to me. I held the pillow, pretending it was him. I closed my eyes, hoping to wake up and find it was just a dream. But every morning the truth hit me again. He was gone. I kept blaming myself. I asked what I did wrong. Was I not loving enough? Was I not kind enough? I looked for answers, but there were none. The truth was simple. He wanted to leave. He chose to walk away, and I could do nothing. I thought my story ended that day. I thought I would live the rest of my life in darkness, but I was wrong. Life had a plan for me. I could not see it yet, but something new was waiting. The day my world fell apart was the day my new story began.
Chapter 3: 6 Months of Darkness. When David walked out, my world became quiet. The house felt heavy, but it was not the walls. It was my heart. I sat in one place for many hours. I did not know what to do. I waited for him to come back. I waited for the sound of his steps. I waited for his voice to say my name. But nothing came. Only silence. The first night alone felt like it would never end. I lay in bed and turned to the side where he used to sleep. I reached out my hand, but the space was empty and cold. I held the pillow and cried until my throat hurt. My tears would not stop. My chest hurt like it would break. I thought, this is how my life will end, alone, crying, forgotten. Morning came, but it did not make me feel better. I sat at the table with a cup of tea. I made 2 cups by mistake, then remembered he was not there. I looked at the second cup until the tea got cold. I threw it away, but the pain stayed. Day after day, I did the same thing. Wake up, cry, sit and wait. I had no energy. I was not hungry. Food had no taste. My body got weak, but I did not care. I told myself, why eat? Why live when the person you lived for is gone? I stopped seeing people. I did not answer the phone. When neighbors knocked, I pretended I wasn't home. I did not want them to feel sorry for me. I did not want their advice. I wanted only David, and he was gone. At night, I heard bad thoughts in my head. They said I was no good. They said I was old. They said no one needed me. I believed those voices. I believed I was nothing without him. I put the blanket over my head and cried until my body shook. Sleep was hard to find. I closed my eyes, but memories of him filled my mind. His laugh, his voice, his touch. Then I remember his last words. I want a divorce. The memory hurt me again and again. Weeks became months. 6 months of pain. 6 months of being alone. I counted the days, but they all felt the same. Every day was dark. Every night was long. Time moved, but I stayed in the same place. My family stayed away. They did not know how to help me. Some friends said I was lucky to be free. Their words hurt me more. Free? I did not feel free. I felt broken. I felt empty. One evening, I walked by a mirror. I stopped. I saw my own face. My eyes were red. My skin was white. My mouth had no smile. I looked at myself for a long time. I whispered, "Who are you now?" I had no answer. Without him, I was no one. At least that is what I thought. But even in the darkest nights, a small voice inside me did not die. It whispered, "You are still here, Clara. You are alive." I tried to push it away. I tried to make it quiet. But the voice came back. It came when I cried. It came when I sat alone. It said, "Your story is not finished." I did not believe it, but those words gave me something. A little light. A reason to open my eyes in the morning. A reason to breathe for one more day. 6 months passed in pain, but in that pain, something inside me changed. I saw that if I could live through those months, I could live through anything. The worst thing had already happened. David had left. My marriage was over. But I was still breathing. I will not say I was strong then. I was not. But I was alive. And being alive meant there was still a chance. A chance for something new. A chance for me. At the end of those 6 months, I stood in front of the same mirror again. My eyes were still tired, but this time I asked a new question. What if my life is not over? What if this is only the start? That thought stayed with me. It was small, but it was enough to change my heart. I decided I could not let the rest of my years disappear in tears. I had to try. I had to find out who I was without him. Those 6 months of darkness did not kill me. They made me who I am. They got me ready. They made me ready for the next part of my life. I thought my story ended in sadness, but life was saving a different page for me. Chapter 4. A Question in the Mirror. 6 months had passed. 6 months of crying, of asking God why, of feeling like a shadow. I thought I would never stand up again. But one morning, something happened. I was walking slowly through the house. My eyes were tired. My steps were slow. I stopped in front of the mirror. First, I did not want to look. I hated what I saw. But I made myself. I lifted my head. I looked at my own face. I saw a woman I didn't know. Her eyes were swollen. Her skin was pale. Her mouth had no smile. I looked at myself for a long time. I whispered, "Who are you now?" I had no answer. Without him, I was no one. At least, that is what I thought. But I stood there for a long time. Water came to my eyes, but I did not look away. I kept asking, "Who are you, Clara? Who are you without him?" It was the first time in years I had talked to myself. It felt strange. It felt painful, but it also felt new. I saw that I had never asked that question before. I had never thought of myself as a person alone. I was always a part of him, his wife, his shadow, his helper. Never me. The mirror did not answer, but the question stayed. I walked away, but the words followed me. Who am I? Who am I now? That day, I could not stop thinking. I remembered the little girl I once was. I remembered dreams I once had. I remembered that I used to sing. I used to laugh. I used to want more. Somewhere on the way, I lost all of that. I gave it away. I buried it under work. I cried again, but this time the tears were different. They were not only for David. They were for me, for the woman I had forgotten, for the life I had given away, for the years I could never get back. That evening, I sat at the table and wrote in a small book. I wrote one line. I am still here. My hand was shaking, but the words were clear. I am still here. It was not strength yet. It was not courage yet, but it was a start. The next morning, I looked in the mirror again. My face was the same, but I spoke out loud. I said, "Clara, you are not Dawn. You are not only her wife. You are you." The sound of my own voice surprised me. It was weak, but it was real. I had not heard myself in so long. I touched the glass and whispered, "I will find you again." That promise became my new air. It was small, but it kept me standing. The dark was still there. The pain was still sharp. But now there was also a question that opened a door. Who am I if not his wife? I did not have the answer yet, but I was ready to look. That was the day my life began to change. Not in big steps, not with sudden happiness, but with one question in the mirror. A question that gave me the power to start again.
Chapter 5. The First Steps to Freedom. The question in the mirror stayed with me. Who am I? Who am I without him? I could not forget it. It followed me during the days. It whispered to me at night. It made me feel restless, but it also woke something up inside me. One morning, I sat at the table. I held a pen. I opened a notebook and wrote again. This time, I wrote more than one line. I wrote, "I am still here. I want to live. I must find myself."
The words looked funny on the paper, but they gave me strength. I decided to do one small thing, something just for me. For the first time in years, I cooked a meal that I liked. Not his favorite, not something he wanted, only mine. I sat at the table and ate slowly. Tears came to my eyes because it felt new. It felt like I was feeding myself, not just staying alive. The next day, I looked at my hands. These same hands had washed, cleaned, ironed, and served for him. Now I wanted them to work for me. I asked myself, what can I do with these hands? Then I remembered something. Years ago, I loved to sew. I loved to make small things with cloth. But I stopped. David once said it was a waste of time, so I quit. That memory made me cry, but after the tears, I felt a little fire. I went to the closet. I found an old box with needles and thread. My fingers shook as I touched them again. I began to sew a small piece of cloth. It was simple, but it felt like life. That little stitch was my first step. The needle went in and out, and with every move, I felt a piece of myself come back. I was not fast, I was not perfect, but I was alive. In the days that followed, I made more small things. A cloth bag, a scarf, a small cover for the table. I looked at them and smiled for the first time in months. I thought, this is me. This is my work. This is my choice. One afternoon, a neighbor came to visit. She saw one of the things I made. She asked if I could make one for her. At first, I was shy. I said I was not good enough, but she said yes, I was. She gave me a little money for it. My hands shook as I held the cash. It was not much, but it was mine. Money from my work. Money from my time. That night, I sat in bed and looked at the money. I whispered, Clara, you can do this. You can stand. It was not about the money itself. It was about the feeling. For the first time, I was not only a wife. I was a person who could make things, who could earn, who could choose. Slowly, people started to talk. Other women asked me to make things. They said my work was good. They said I had a gift. I felt something new. Respect. Not the kind I begged for from David, but the kind that came because of what I could do. Every time I worked with my hands, I felt lighter. Every time someone smiled at my things, I felt seen. Every time I earned a little money, I felt free. But it was not only about sewing. It was about time. For years, my time was not mine. Every hour belonged to him. Now, even when I was alone, those hours belonged to me. I could use them any way I wanted. That freedom scared me at first, but then it gave me peace. I saw that I did not have to beg for value anymore. I could give myself value. I could decide what was important. I could decide what to do. It was not easy. I still cried at night. I still missed him sometimes. I still felt the pain of being left. But I also felt something new growing inside me. Strength. Hope. Freedom. One evening, I looked in the mirror again. I touched the glass and whispered, "You are finding yourself, Clara. You are more than his wife. You are you." This time, I believed it a little more. The first steps were small. A meal for myself, a stitch in cloth, a neighbor's smile, a little money in my hand. But those small steps carried me forward. They carried me out of the darkness. I was learning that I could live. I was learning that I could even get up. And this was only the start. Chapter 6: Success and Wealth. I never thought small steps could change a life. But little by little, my work began to grow. First it was one neighbor, then another. Soon people I did not know came to me. They wanted the things I made. They said my work was special. They said it had love in it. The first time I earned good money, I sat and looked at it for a long time. It was not about the paper money. It was about what it meant. For years, I had worked with no pay, with no thanks. Now, for the first time, the world was giving something back to me. I saved that money in a small box. Each week, I added more. Every time I opened the box, I felt proud. It was proof that I could stand. Proof that I was not helpless anymore. Proof that I could live without him. Orders kept coming. I began to work more hours, but this time it did not feel like I was a slave. It felt like I had a reason. Each stitch was mine. Each design was mine. Each piece had a part of me. When people smiled and said my work was good, I felt alive. I used the money to buy more cloth, better tools. I put money into myself, something I had never done before. With each step, my small business grew. With each step, I felt more sure of myself. Soon I was earning more than I ever thought I could. My savings got bigger. I paid bills without fear. I bought things without asking for permission. I felt a power I had never known, the power of freedom. But the best part was not only the money. It was respect. Women from my town came to me. They asked how I started. They asked how I kept going. They said they made them want to try too. I looked at them and smiled with water in my eyes. Me, Clara, who once thought life was over, was now giving hope to others. I began to help people. I gave free things to women who had little money. I shared some of my money with families who were having a hard time. I listened to their pain and I told them my story. I said, if I can get up, you can too. The more I gave, the richer I felt, not only in money, but in my heart. I was not empty anymore. I was full of meaning, full of life. One day, a local newspaper wrote about me. They called me a woman with courage. They wrote about how I built myself again after divorce. When I read the story, I cried. Not because I was sad, but because my life, which once felt worthless, now had value to other people. Soon I was asked to talk to groups. I stood in front of women who had lost hope. I shared my story. I told them about the pain, about the nights of tears, about the mirror that asked me who I was. And I told them about the small steps, the first stitch, the first sale, the first smile. They listened with open hearts. Some cried with me. Some held me after. They told me my words gave them strength. I saw then that my story was not only mine, it was a gift for others. Wealth came in many ways. Money, respect, freedom, peace. I had all of them now. Not because of him, not because of anyone else, but because I chose to stand. Because I chose to live. There were still times when I remembered the pain, but those memories did not control me anymore. They became like fuel. They reminded me how far I had come. I was not the woman who begged for love anymore. I was not the wife who lived in fear of being left. I was Clara, strong, on my own, free. When I looked in the mirror now, I did not ask, "Who are you?" I knew the answer. I smiled and said, "You are enough. You are more than enough." Success had changed my life. But more than that, freedom had given me peace. I did not live in darkness anymore. I lived in light that I made myself. And this was only the start.
Chapter 7: The Return of the Man Who Left. My life had changed in ways I never thought possible. I was not the woman who cried every night anymore. I was not the wife who lived in quiet. I had found myself. I had built something that was mine. People respected me. Women saw me as an example. I had wealth, I had freedom, and I had peace. Then, one evening, something happened that I never thought would happen again. David came back. I was sitting at the table when I heard a knock. My heart jumped. I opened the door and saw him. The man who had left me, the man who broke me, was standing there. His hair had more gray, his face looked tired, but his eyes were different. They were not cold this time. They were looking for something. For a moment, I could not move. My hand shook. I could not breathe. Memories came back fast. Nights of tears, days of being alone. The moment he said he wanted a divorce, the sound of the door closing behind him, all of it hit me at once. He spoke softly. He said my name, Clara. I did not answer at first. I just looked at him. Then I moved to the side, and he came in. We sat across from each other like we had so many times before. But this time, the air was different. I was not the same woman anymore. I was not the one who begged. I was not the one who was afraid. I was someone new. He started to talk. He told me he saw my name in the newspaper. He told me he heard about my work, about how people respected me. He said he was proud. His words sounded strange to me. Where was this pride when I ironed his shirts with a fever? Where was this pride when I begged him not to leave? I listened and did not speak. Then he said the words I knew were coming. I made a mistake. I should not have left. I want to come back. My chest felt tight. Part of me wanted to shout. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to laugh. He wanted to come back now, after all the pain? After I built myself from nothing? I looked at him carefully. His eyes were soft, almost asking. He was not the strong, cold man who walked away before. He was smaller now, weaker. But I remembered everything. I remembered the nights on the floor crying until I could not breathe. I remembered the mornings when I had no reason to get up. I remembered the shame of signing those papers with tears on my face. And I remembered how I got up. I remembered the first stitch, the first money I earned, the respect in the eyes of women who looked up to me. The moment I looked in the mirror and told myself, "You are enough." He asked again. He said he was lonely. He said he wanted me back. He said we could start over. Tears filled my eyes, but they were not for him. They were for me, for the woman who had once begged this same man to stay, for the woman who had been left like she was nothing. I told him softly, "You walked away when I gave you my whole life. You closed the door on me when I was on my knees. You left me when I was weak. Now I am strong and I will not go back."
He put his head down. He tried to argue. He said he was sorry. He said he was a fool. He said he wanted one more chance. I moved my head no. David, I said, I forgive you, but I cannot take you back. I found peace without you, and I will not lose it again. The room was quiet. He looked at me, and he could see it in my eyes. My decision was final. The woman who once lived for him was gone. He left again that night, but this time I did not fall to the floor. I did not cry until I could not breathe. I did not beg. I stood tall. I watched him walk away, and I felt no fear. I felt free. When the door closed, I turned to the mirror. I looked at myself. I smiled through my tears. I whispered, "Clara, you did it. You chose yourself." That was the moment I knew the truth. Divorce did not end me. It saved me. It gave me a second chance at life. And when the past came knocking, I was strong enough to say no. Chapter 8. Choosing peace over the past. When David walked out the second time, I did not cry. I did not fall on the floor. I did not beg. I stood still, and I felt a strange calm inside me. It was not anger. It was not happiness. It was peace. For years, I believed he was my whole world. For years, I thought my life would end without him. But now, as the door closed behind him, I knew the truth. I did not need him. I did not need his okay, his presence, or his love to be. I had found myself, and that was enough. I went to the mirror, like I had so many times before. I looked at the woman standing there. Her eyes were stronger now. Her mouth had a small smile. Her shoulders were straight. I whispered to myself, "You made it, Clara. You lived through it. You grew. You chose yourself." The memories of pain were still inside me. They would never completely go away, but now they did not control me. They were part of my story, but not the whole story. They were the dark parts that made my light shine brighter. I thought about David's words. He said he was sorry. He said he wanted me back. Years ago, I would have given anything to hear those words. I would have fallen at his feet. I would have thanked him just for staying. But now, those words meant nothing. They came too late. I forgave him in my heart, not for him, but for me. I did not want to carry hate. I did not want to carry anger. I wanted peace, and peace only comes when you let go. So, I let go. I let go of the years I gave away. I let go of the nights I cried. I let go of the woman who thought she was worthless. I closed that part of my life, not with bad feelings, not with regret, but with grace. I stood by the window, and I whispered, "Thank you, life. Thank you for breaking me. Thank you for showing me that I am more than what I lost. Thank you for giving me a second chance." In the days that followed, I worked as I always did. I helped women who came to me for advice. I shared my story with them. I told them the truth, that pain can break you, but it can also build you. That love can hurt you, but loving yourself can heal you. That divorce is not always an end. Sometimes it's a beginning. I saw hope in their eyes. Some of them were where I once was, crying in quiet, begging for love, feeling unseen. I told them, "You are not unseen.
"You are enough. You can get up." And when they believed me even a little, I felt my purpose grow. I was not living in the past anymore. I was not waiting for David to return. I was living now. I was living for myself and for others who needed to see that getting better is possible. One morning, I woke up and smiled for no reason. It had been years since that happened. I did not smile because of someone else. I smiled because I was alive, because I was free, because I was me. I had wealth now. I had respect. I had a name people knew. But none of those things were my real treasure. My real treasure was peace, the kind of peace that no one can take away, the kind of peace that comes from choosing yourself. I saw something that day. Divorce did not ruin my life. It gave me back my life. It gave me a chance to start again at 69. It gave me the strength to look at pain and still move forward. It gave me freedom. I will not lie. The journey was hard. There were nights when I thought I wouldn't make it. There were mornings when I wished I would not wake up. But I did make it. I did wake up. And every step, every tear, every small act of bravery led me here, to peace. Now, when I am with people, I do not hide my story. I tell it openly. I tell them about the pain, the loss, the nights of tears, and then I tell them about the freedom, the joy, the peace that came after. I want them to know that it is possible, that life does not end when love ends.
Sometimes people ask me if I would ever take David back. I smile and say, I gave him my life once. Now this life is mine. And that is the truth. I do not hate him. I do not wish him harm. But my path is different now. My heart is free. My soul is calm. I choose peace over the past. When I look at the sunrise now, I whisper a thank you. Not for what I lost, but for what I found.